I'm very deeply honored to present the next award to our outstanding philanthropist. As the former president and director of the Development of Lighthouse Louisiana, I have worked with many donors and many donors through the different organizations I have helped in the past. Today's outstanding philanthropists are honored not only for their giving hearts that change our world, but also their immense generosity, encouragement, and inspiration to others to follow their leadership. Today's honorees, Paulette and Frank Stewart, fit this criteria and then some. Most recently, the Stewarts, long-term supporters of WYS, made a transformative gift, which you've just heard about, to create the WYS Paulette and Frank Stewart Innovation Center for Education Media. Frank and Paulette's leadership gift anchored a successful $10 million capital campaign. When I say change the world, think Species Survival Center. Think a world-class SPCA. Post-Katrina, think economic and entrepreneurial education for our children. For thousands of school children each year that they support. The Center of Hope on Claiborne Avenue. Ethical thinking in business education. Clinical pastoral care in our hospitals, and there's so much more that they have changed our world. Organizations benefiting from their generous philanthropy include, this is a short list, it's not the entire list, Junior Achievement, the SPCA, Archdiocese of New Orleans, Crime Stoppers, New Orleans Museum of Art, Oxford Foundation, Tulane University, Loyola University, the Salvation Army, the University of New Orleans, the Ottoman Institute, and this list goes on and on. The Stewarts have taught us many lessons, but the most important lesson I learned from Frank and Paulette is impactful giving. They don't just give out of their wealth and generosity. They encourage and they inspire others to follow their lead. If you've got Frank and Paulette on your campaign, watch out because they're going to call you. The Stewarts, when they gave the lead contribution to the WYS campaign for the center that now bears their name, Mr. Stewart personally contacted a number of donors, explaining the importance of the case for funding and encouraged them to support WYS. When Mrs. Stewart chaired the recent fundraiser for the television station, she tirelessly recruited volunteers and donors. The vast number of accolades and awards from every facet of the community attests to the Stewarts' active encouragement of others to follow suit and make our community stronger. Please join me in recognizing and honoring our outstanding philanthropists for 2018, Paulette and Frank Stewart.
And I want to thank you, Paulette. I've said many times in life, the greatest privilege is to have the right partner, and I do. And I have to say thank you very much because my partner has been the inspiration in everything I've done. I would like to look around this room right now because many, many people in this room I know very well. And in fact, I probably would say 100% of the people in this room are here for one reason. You all believe in philanthropy. You obviously believe in the fact of sharing the success you've enjoyed in life. And that's the privilege that we have right now. At this age, after 58 years, we enjoy sharing with things that we really believe in. And there's so many. This city is very fortunate because we have everybody in this room. And I look at the people here. Thank you, each one of you, because each one of you are very much responsible for supporting worthy causes. And WYS, I can only say selfishly, is the media that I have to say I want to watch every chance I get because the only thing I watch is of news or sports, and the rest is history and all of the nature and everything that you learn at WYS. So I think you all keep doing what you're doing. And Alan, I thank you very much for the privilege of being here. And I also want to thank all of you all again for being here and supporting worthy causes. You're the people that make New Orleans what it is. And we are probably the Queen City of the South, but we're probably the Queen City of the world, because I do believe we have people who care. And again, I want to thank you. It's dangerous to put a microphone in our faces.
Welcome to Celebrating Culture. I'm here with Frank Stewart. We're talking today about the social philanthropy of Mardi Gras. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charles. It's great to be here.
You are one of the biggest philanthropists in New Orleans right now. I mean, I know you're modest. Social philanthropy is caught on in New Orleans. I mean, and Rex is doing a lot with charter school system.
They're doing a lot for education in whatever way it can be properly used. But Rex is just one of the magnificent organizations that are helping the aspect of Mardi Gras. In fact, I often refer to Mardi Gras as an organization that gives away everything in a parade. I mean, Mardi Gras is a festival, and it's also an organization of many organizations that thrive on parades and events, and when they do, they give trinkets to people. So it's a spirit of giving, and I think Mardi Gras really doesn't get the credit for what it does, because if you've ever been to a parade of any kind, will do anything for a trinket.
It will. St. Charles Avenue is just loaded with ladders, and the people are looking for those toys for their kids.
Well, it's not so much toys, it's you might say trinkets.
Trinkets.
And these, of course, it has become with stuffed animals that we have now an upgrading of some of the throws.
Rex has pillows now.
Rex has a number of organizational throws, and most of them are keepsakes.
Yes.
That people really want to keep and use. It's continued to grow. As I mentioned, I'm going to be 83 this summer, and I can remember yet when I was a kid going to these parades, you'd do anything to get a doubloon or anything to get a pair of glass beads imported from China. People would go to extremes to get that. But what was wonderful about Mardi Gras, and especially about Rex, when you paraded, it was very interesting to see somebody, an adult, grab the trinket and turn around and give it to the children. It really was an example of giving, and I think that's what the underlying motivation that you're trying to explain to the public is. There is philanthropy in Mardi Gras in every step.
When you see somebody give to a child, whether it be a doubloon or a bead or a toy that they caught, that they pass it on.
Charles, when people fight to get a trinket, a doubloon, and then turn around and give it away.
Just with the Boy Scouts today. The Boy Scouts are something that's very close.
Well, I spent 7 years in the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts, and all I can say again is it had a profound effect on my career, my life, and all of the aspects of learning the key ingredient in discipline, which is the ability to make yourself do what you have to do and should do before what you want to do. As a scout, we were all taught to have discipline. And to me, that was one of the great underlying messages and underlying educations that we had.
Your Rotary Club is one of the oldest in the city?
It's the 12th oldest Rotary Club in the world. And there are over 5,000 Rotary Clubs in practically every city. Wow. in the various countries that it exists in. But Rotary here is the 12th oldest Rotary, and it's grandfathered, because originally Rotary was the fact that you had to attend a certain percentage of meetings. But we preempted that. We were grandfathered. You didn't have to attend a percentage. And you only could have one person in Rotary from each profession, from each job description. You only had one banker, you only had, that has now changed, and it's wide open not only to multiple interests from various professions, but to the females. We now have a tremendous percentage in our enrollment of members that are male and female.
And you took on Warren Eastern School.
Warren Eastern School, the adopted opportunities that our Rotary Club sees in creating what we call Rotaract, actually creating a younger Rotary Club where the students learn the principles of Rotary. And Rotary is named service before self. And believe me, that is the underlying principle of Rotary, giving service before self.
You were in the service. You were in the Navy.
I was a lieutenant in the Navy. I served 2 years active duty in mine warfare. I had 4 minesweepers, but I had an incredible tour of duty. We had 2 diving boats. We would plant minefields, and then we'd have to go retrieve the mines that did not detonate and find out what malfunctioned. And believe me, it was an experience to have 8 divers. I was in charge of them, but I didn't do the what you would call the hazardous duty diving, but the divers that did would collect $5 every time they jumped in the water for hazardous duty.
$5.
$5 to risk your life.
Now, when New Orleans has the World War II Museum, and that is something that's dear to your heart, is that because of your own service?
Well, the World War II Museum is, to me, the reason we are free. The World War II Museum is, to me, an educational opportunity to let every person that exists in this free world understand why we are free. We had people who sacrificed their lives and gave their lives to stop this country from being taken over by other countries. One of the things I'll tell you is there are 4 causes of war. War has been around since the beginning of time. Man has always been at war, and you can only say that the 4 P's, the desire for power, the desire for pleasure, the desire for possession, and the desire for pride. That is the cause of war. And if you stop and think about it, it also causes divorce. It causes the separation of good executives, a violation of the 4 P's, the desire for power, the desire for possession, the desire for pleasure, and the desire for pride. Wow. Those are the elements in man's nature that creates war.
You have a phrase that I like, that I just heard from you, positive evolution. And I think that says a lot about how we are as a society.
Well, it's not as a society, it's how we are in existence in life. We came into this world in an act of fate. We didn't choose our mother and father. We didn't choose our gender. We didn't choose our race. We didn't choose the year in which we came into this world. But we came into this world at a given time, and from that time on, we've enjoyed positive evolution. Positive evolution is nothing more than enjoying the growth of efficiency, education, convenience, and productivity. Today, travel is one area where 10 years ago when I was young, or 50 years ago when I was young.
You're still young.
We have come a long way in transportation. We've come a long way in technology. We've come a long way in medicine. We've come a long way in exploring technology out of space. You can't name anything that hasn't grown from last year or last month or last year. The period of time that we've been in is really such that we watch evolution in a positive way. We've cured many of the problems. The instance right now of slavery that people take issue with, it is not allowed, it's illegal. And we have the other example right now in the positive evolution. We can't discriminate, we don't segregate, and we don't have white supremacy. Today, we have an equalization of humanity, and that's what I call positive evolution.
You were in the memorialization business.
What I enjoyed most of all about the profession that I found myself in, and it's a long story how I found myself in that, because my father and grandfather were in the business. But I can only say there are 2 choices in life, and those 2 choices are we can make our own arrangements for the end of life ahead of time, or we can have somebody make them for us after we are gone. And my success in business was trying to educate people the advantages of planning in advance of need. Because what happens is, if you don't make your own choices and plans, somebody's going to spend more money on you than you want them to. They're going to put you somewhere you don't want to be put. They're going to have a service that's different from what you'd like to have. So in my opinion, and I made a career out of convincing and proving to people that it was important to plan in advance of need. Naturally, that meant spending money early on, because certainly we expect to live forever.
Right.
And but what happens is that if we could take the time to realize that life does end, and we have a chance to make those plans right now and pay for it over a period of time, the inflation, the cost of space goes up every year. There's no question about the fact that the requirements of burial are inflated every year because of space.
Sure.
A cemetery has only so
That's
much
true.
space, and then and at the end of the use of the space, there's none left. But people will pay more to be in that cemetery.
To me, the best decision you ever made was Paulette. She's been with you for how many years?
Well, you're now touching upon the favorite, the aspect of my life, and that's the fact to have the right partner. I've been married 58 years, and I married the girl next door after I got out of the Navy, and I have to say it's been a magnificent, magnificent life. My wife cares about animals, and she's an animal lover, and she adopted a big animal and takes care of him.
You're a teddy bear. You're a teddy bear. You still have a very active social life. I mean, you and Paulette are out. You're in the community. You're very active.
Unfortunately, we're out, I think, 6 nights out of 7. But it's all paying back, because in the philanthropic opportunity I have right now, my business was acquired. It's the first time in my life I've been out of debt. I've made my whole career on borrowed capital. And I must tell you that right now I have a debt and owe so much to so many people that I'm using the opportunity right now to pay back those opportunities where I really merited and benefited from. You were talking about my wife. All I can say is she's a saint. She's put up with me, and if you look closely, you'll see the halo over her head.
I have seen it. I have seen it a few times. But you recently went from Manresa on a retreat and came back on a Sunday and picked her up and took her out. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you were watching the ball. You were out with her.
And she says you're a different person when you come back from retreat. Her statement is, though, however, it doesn't last long enough. In all seriousness, I've gone 55 straight years on a silent retreat to Manresa. And it's a selfish weekend, because it's me and thee. You don't talk to anybody, you don't look at anybody, you don't pass notes. And it's one of these things where you focus on your inner self and your nature, and you spend time listening to 4 great talks a day. Each one is a half hour or less. And I have to tell you, you have 3 days of silence to think. And it's a real effect. After 55, 57 years, I can say right now, Manresa has been one of those opportunities in life that really has made a profound effect in my discipline and ability to do what I have to do and should do before what I want to do.
And the Boy Scouts. So you were a diver. You were the Life-Saving Merit Badge. To me, was a hard one to get. How was that for you?
Well, of course, at the age that we were then, swimming and diving was very enjoyable.
You got to pull it a big man.
You do, but you learn how to do it. And with a good scoutmaster, that's the whole purpose of scouting, is to teach you how to earn the merit badges that are part of the requirement to become Eagle. If we could only learn all of the requirements in each one of the merit badges that are available, and there's over 100 now subjects, but you need 21 merit badges to be an Eagle. That's, as I say, one of the driving forces of learning discipline. Discipline is nothing more than the ability to make yourself do what you have to do and should do before what you want to do. If you can make yourself do what you have to do and should do before what you want to do, you'll be happy and you'll be successful. That, to me, is one of the strongest educational insights that I've been the beneficiary of receiving.
And that's also part of the Jesuit philosophy.
I would have to agree, but I still wear my Jesuit ring, graduated in 1953, and I have to say again there that Jesuit was Junior Marine. We drilled every day with Springfield '03 rifles, wooden rifles. We had uniforms that we had to wear every day, and you had to have, when the whistle blew at the beginning of school, you had to go into silence. And I can tell you, if you violated that, there was penance hall. And you learned by example how to stay out of penance hall. In other words, you obeyed. You learned to follow the rules.
As far as modern day slavery, that's a thing that we need to be a little bit proactive with as well, as far as our social causes.
We outnumber the ability to educate. Education is the key solution to every problem in life. Education is the ingredient that can solve every problem. The problem is not everybody has education. And today we have such a high percentage of people who do not have mothers and fathers. They're brought into this world and unfortunately are left to learn on their own. And that, to me, is the cause of most of the problems we have, is a lack of education. Education is the answer and the cure to every problem.
And in Noma, I see we have a book here in Noma.
I'm on the board of the New Orleans Museum of Art. And again, art is nothing more than a manifestation of a person's ability to do something that attractive or is pleasurable for somebody else to see. And that's, if you step back and realize, whether it be statues, monuments, whether it be pictures, those elements are monuments that really need to be recognized. And the Museum of Art certainly does that. And Charles, everybody has a different talent. Everybody has a different ability. No two people were ever born alike. Identical twins conceived at the same moment who were brought into this world even look alike, I mean, in the identification, yet they're totally different in personality. There are no two people ever created alike. And as a result, one of the things that we have to accept and understand is the difference between people.
Frank, I want to thank you for being on the show. And stay tuned, we'll be right back with more of Celebrating Culture. You were in the Navy in Key West?
Key West, Florida.
Tell me the lobster story.
Well, I had a friend in Pensacola who was a pilot, and he would check out an SNJ, which was a trainer, and fly down to Key West and pick me up for a sack of lobsters. He would fly me to New Orleans and on a Friday afternoon, and we would come back on Sunday night, and I didn't have to take leave. So I benefited by the fact of getting a free leave, but all it cost me was going out during the week and gigging lobsters. And the rock lobsters in Florida are quite different from the Maine lobsters or the northern lobsters. Florida lobsters, known as langosta, they don't have claws. Florida lobsters are like overgrown mud bugs. They're overgrown crawfish. And that's what a langosta is, if you look at it carefully. But of course, a crawfish does have a claw.
Yes, it does. But that was creative. You negotiated. This guy would get the plane, you'd get the lobsters.
Well, what it was is, if I wanted to get a free trip to New Orleans on a Friday afternoon, I would call my friend and tell him I had a sack of lobster tails, which I would catch during the week by going out to the reefs and diving and gigging lobsters and putting them in the freezer. And when I had a full sack, I could get a ride home.
Awesome. Great story.